decision of the Supreme Court of Canada. I would actually urge you all to read Justice McClung's decision, because it is only 30 years ago, and it is really, the message of that is that we need to continue to be vigilant. So happy to answer any questions from the audience.
Thanks so much, Lyle. I hadn't actually read the Justice McClung decision until Lyle commended it to me, and it is, I mean, Doug puts it well, but it is horrifying to see. I can't imagine as a lawyer having to argue to the back of a judge. When I heard that part of the film, it was one of the more chilling parts. So I echo that both of those recommendations. Darren, turning to you, I feel like I have so many follow-up questions for all of you, but we will be turning to the audience momentarily, so prepare yourselves for that big responsibility. I think, Darren, the question I'd love to hear you reflect on, obviously as a queer historian, I think, I might assume that would be the lens that you would bring to this film. I went in seeing it for the first time, assuming it would be a historical piece that I would learn a lot from, but I really wasn't braced for just how relevant it would feel today. And so my question for you is, at what point did you realize what film you were making? Was there a moment where you sort of understood that its significance today, as well as a historical piece?
Absolutely. I love history. I love going down the wormhole. I love the rabbit hole. I love every little single detail. But I'm always looking for the human story, and I feel lucky that I got to sort of observe this human story from as a queer Edmontonian. Nobody in the community really remembers the beginning of the case, because it was a small case, and we were used to queer people being discriminated against by the government. It was not a unique story at all when Delwin Vriend got fired. But it was unique in the fact that he was the first one to actually fight back and actually have a success with it. And so I remember the decision being handed down. So everything up to there was kind of a blur. I learned all about that from the research, because I didn't remember any of that. But I do remember the decision getting handed down and opening up the Edmonton Journal and seeing literally a full page of "God's going to strike us all down," and then another full page of "Finally we've reached, a reasonable future." And that polarization and the volume of the letters was really kind of terrifying. Then I remember being at home with my husband and watching the news and seeing Michael Fair do a press conference where he said, "It's not safe for me to go to work at City Hall anymore because there have been death threats." And that put a chill on everything else in terms of what it was like to just be existing in the story at that time. That's, I think, where the story really became about all of us. I mean, it was always about all of us, but that's the moment where I realized that we were all implicated in that, because Michael Fair had been such a vanguard of decency in the community, but also just a dear personal friend and someone who I admired greatly. And so I think it got real there, There was another part to your question I was going to answer, and I can't remember what it was now. It was
maybe just like appreciating the relevance of it today.
When we started making this documentary, it was a different world. And it's interesting because I now learn how much of the context of a film can change how a film lands and how it's received and how people take in the information. Just to put we started in 2022, and we were looking to make a film about something that was very much in the past. It's like, remember that time when we didn't have human rights? Remember that? Does everybody remember that? Let's talk about that. And so we were going back and going through all that stuff. The day that we interviewed Sheila Greco was the day that Roe v. Wade was overturned. And that's the day shit got real, if you don't mind me being blunt. She was livid and fiery, and oh, what a great interview that day. I mean, it was the hardest thing in the world was for me not to chat. Like, everybody knows I love to talk. And sitting silently while people speak at great length eloquently is really hard for me. But I did, but Sheila was incensed and just fired up. And I think that's the day that we realized, I mean, the election of Trump was one thing, but the day Roe v. Wade fell, that's where we realized that like everything that we had gained could be lost. And that suddenly made the film not just a look back at a different time in history, but a warning about what's coming ahead. And I think that's something that film can do beautifully. I mean, I'm new to film, so this is all new to me, but it felt important suddenly. It felt not just relevant, but important and crucial that we get the story out there because it is inspiring. Activism is hard and it takes years. And I think we're so used to clicking like and thinking that our job as activists is done on Facebook, which don't get me started. But when you see that it took 7 years and millions of dollars and all this energy and all this pro bono expertise and the great minds that collected to make sure that we can just exist in our lives without, being harassed. I mean, that's an important lesson, and I think that the film landing the way it has is because of the world, the way it has turned since the film has started being made.
Thank you so much for that. Audience, are you ready? Yes, perfect.